Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Flow game for the win! Tyrese! The terror! Don't you open your mouth about that!
You talk them to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing, wheeling dealing, limousine life, jet flying, son of a gun.
Taylor's gone! Jonathan Taylor! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy!
Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
I'm never taking a back seat to anybody and don't plan on starting now.
Woo! I-U! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Coogan.
But there's no doubt about it, yeah, you mean Gene Okerlund. You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome aboard on this Tuesday edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have
Welcome
you.
to
Of
Indiana
course,
Sports Beat
and
Radio,
one
brought
of
to you
these
by
days
the Hard
I'm going
Truth
to
Distilling.
remember to stop hitting that or let that loop button that is always on drives me absolutely insane. But being here with you guys is the only thing that keeps me sane. But glad to be here and looking at the appointment book. We've got Mike DeCourcy on board today, as well as Chronic Hoosier, and we will be joined by Greg Smith from Rivals as their national football recruiting analyst. And I've seen some chatter in the Andy Moore Honda on the Andy Moore Honda hotline here, I guess, about Juju Lewis. I haven't seen anything about it, but I am expecting that to go in a different direction without question, as he has scheduled but not come through with 2 visits here of recent note. I think Washington was one of them, and then again for the Michigan game. But I had tweeted out after I saw that a lot of people thought that he was going to be here, that I found out that was not going to be the case. So take from that what you will. But plenty to get to today. We'll hear from Coach Curt Cignetti and some of the players as they are off on a bye now at 10-0 before they'll take on the number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes tonight. The college football playoff poll number 2 comes out, and we'll check in with all of that and see where things lie. And I don't know that this is kind of funny. The AP poll had not been that kind to Indiana for most of the year. And then all of a sudden, I was shocked that they just basically booted Miami out with that loss. I mean, kicked them to the curb. That was a major drop. The same with Georgia, but it was Georgia's second loss. It shows you how tenuous those spots are there, but how important it is to climb up as high as you possibly can. And with Ohio State being the only potential loss for Indiana now, I can't see a loss to the number 2 team in the that it actually is probably the number 1 team if you want to be honest, but that should not knock them out. The thing is, boy, I'm looking forward to talking to Mike about this, but this is I keep saying it's a semifinal championship for the Big Ten championship. So you got that going for us. Greg Smith from Rivals. We'll talk about how the recruiting has been, the recruiting buzz has just been overwhelming for Indiana, the positivity that they're getting there. Indiana basketball now ranked 16th in the AP poll as that came out yesterday. And as mentioned yesterday, their first round opponent in the Bahamas, Louisville, was pounded over the weekend by Tennessee, 77-55. So we'll see that. Craig Moon, I hope you enjoyed your time over at Hard Truth yesterday, as we're coming to you, of course, from the Hard Truth Distillery Studios, as we do each and every day. I know Craig in from Charlotte. My family lives down in that. I moved down there when I was a kid, but they've been down there for a long, long time. But wish I could have been there to join you. That would have been enjoyable, but I hope you had a great time, Craig. And thank you so much for being a great follower of the show. Appreciate you. But appreciate each and every one of you guys, no matter where and how you're listening, whether it's on one of our three great affiliates, 97.7 ESPN, the Ref, always the right call, down in Evansville on the river in the southwest part of the state, up in the region on the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it tuned right here as you get done with us. There's still more to come. And so there's no sense in even touching that dial. And if you're following along on YouTube, we greatly appreciate you as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notifications toggle. That way you don't miss a thing, like our post-game coverages, post-game basketball shows, all of the interviews, post-game interviews, and all pre-game interviews. All of that is up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And Curt Cignetti getting just a ton of attention. It is, I've seen it firsthand. I mean, this is not something breaking news that I'm saying here, but it's the raw numbers. You can see it. It's crazy. There is a tidal wave effect. Now, how can will that carry over in the off season? Even though the season's not done, I'm just curious on how this will resonate with Indiana fans to the point to where, boy, are they looking forward to football season. The good thing is it doesn't seem as long to now. Just think about it. If especially if the basketball season is going well, that goes deep into March and you're not done with basketball until April. Now you've just got May, June, July, and August, and you're back in football, man. So shorter break for Indiana fans. That would be the optimum action there. Let's see. Always got a good argument going on in the Andy Moore Honda hotline. I was just trying to jump in and see what anything happening today. It's time for you to pony up to make up for 150 years of neglecting the program. I must be talking about. Pecan says Cignetti should be paid $10.2 million per year, making him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten, slightly more than Ryan Day. Assistants should get a raise too with an NIL increase. Well, I'm not saying he does or he doesn't. I will say this, that Ohio State and their ability to make money far exceeds that of Indiana. Not that will excuse Indiana from having to pay him. It was so weird that you put that out, because it wasn't a dream, but I had a thought deep into the night that after the season, Indiana will announce a 10-year, $100 million contract with Curt Cignetti. I mean, that's it just in my brain. I don't know that they could do that, but I definitely think that he gets up into the $8 million range, but we're just guessing. Doesn't matter. It's just fun to talk about. But it will secure Indiana football is what it will do. And the assistant coaches, you're probably going to keep them for a while, but not forever, as they're all very good at what they do. Obviously, part of why Indiana is so good at what they do. But it's going to be fun. So enjoy the ride right now. Don't worry about all that stuff. enjoy the challenge of Indiana is 10-0. They're going to play Ohio State undefeated. They're going to be, if I told you 2 months ago that when Indiana and Ohio State played, that Indiana was going to be the undefeated team, very, very, very few people would have believed that. I mean, I know now that there's a lot of people that said, oh, yeah, I knew. Yeah, I knew. I'm like, yeah, you did. But very few, I don't know. I could have fathomed that. But once I kept going through the season and looking at the schedule, 6-0 easily became 8-0 on there. So, and that, I talked about it. Had you put $100 on them at the beginning of the year and let it go, that Michigan game would have eaten that up. That would have no bueno on that. But I didn't, so it's no big deal. Looking forward to the college football poll coming out tonight. I'm just curious on where I don't think Indiana stays. I don't think they match the AP poll is my thought. I thought that I don't think they jump Tennessee in the college football playoff poll because they have to be strategic. There is strategery in that room, I believe, and so I think that a little SEC balance, not bias. I said balance, but I think that they're going to do that just to put some balance up there. Not that it matters. Tennessee plays Georgia, so they're either going to establish themselves as a team that is firmly entrenched. If they get that win, I doubt that they're going anywhere as far as getting knocked out, even if they were to, lose a third game, which would be the conference championship most likely. So it's just a lot to look at. A lot to look forward to, but all fun stuff, man. All fun conversations. Yale, what happened to Yale? Reading about here in the comments. Yale had off. Must have been Purdue and Yale basketball last night. Yeah, it was not on my bingo card for entertainment in the evening. I was too busy doing other things. Indiana, I also had this crazy thought. Indiana hosting Kalen DeBoer and Alabama in the college football playoffs. How crazy. I mean, you want to talk about the craziness. You could go back 5 years and go, okay, in 5 years from now, Indiana football is going to be a powerhouse, and they're going to host a college football playoff game. Hey, stop. You could have stopped right there. And they'd have said, can you get me the white coats in? And then said, no, but wait, there's more. They're going to host Alabama. And you're, what? And then no, but wait. And their head coach and their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator are all going to be former Indiana assistant coaches. Yes. The craziness, there's no bounds to how crazy that we can get. With all of this, but looking forward to it. Lots coming up. Mike DeCourcy is set to join us here on the program. Looking forward to getting into a conversation about all of the things and going on, all the happenings. We've got plenty more coming up here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Back with more right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revestco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Morale in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday, and glad to have you along as always, as our good friend Mike DeCourcy joins us as well from the Sporting News. Mike, how are you doing today, sir? It's a lot better when I add you in there so we can hear you now.
I'm well, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I am doing fine. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind having a day off here like Sig had. He finally got a day off. Unfortunately, they're scheduling games on every day, it seems like, when there's something not going on. Like next Saturday, of course, Indiana has a bye week, and, let's have a basketball game instead. And I'm like, nope, no Saturday off there. So
sorry to hear that, man.
Could be digging ditches.
There.
Could be digging ditches. No one knows better than you do. I was thinking about this last night. One of the greats of our time in sports as a sports writer. It's incredible that I get this honor each week, man. Very fortunate. Because I was thinking about a question with all the Cignetti. It's just like a tidal wave. This is the Cignetti tsunami is what it has been like. Because that's what it is. He is just everywhere, and he omnipresent. He's just washes into everything, and you have covered everything. You've seen coaches come and go. Have you ever seen anything like this that has, just been a 180, a complete flip-flop from one side to the other? It's a turn to inside out, any which way you can turn it.
I think I probably have seen these kinds of turnarounds, Jim, but in sports where it's more plausible. College football has always been, and I know it's more pliable now than it's ever been, but college football has always been a sport that it's more difficult to turn failure into success than any other. Because the players having a significant number of capable players is so important, and usually it's hard to get those players all quickly. You look at Cincinnati from the dark days of Tommy Tuberville to the brilliance.
Hold on, I've got to go take a phone call, Mike.
Yes, exactly. From those days to Luke Fickell, the brilliance that he had in 2019, 2020, those seasons took a while, a few years, 3-4 years to get there. And now, like I said, I know it's a little different now, but is it this much different that you can turn? I mean, as you have said on many occasions, the program with the least success historically of major conference schools in football to this. You can talk about the schedule and all of that, but they just beat Michigan on Saturday. I know this is not the greatest Michigan team of the last 12 months even, but Michigan still has every advantage over Indiana, and they beat them. And it wasn't the greatest performance Indiana has delivered this season, but I think there was a lot of pressure on that game. I thought Michigan played very well. I didn't think Indiana played their best, but in the end, they made the plays necessary to come out of there with a victory. And that was all that mattered. Style points, whatever. Come on now. You know, I mean, this is not college football of 1972. Style points are of less consequence than they ever have been. I don't care what the polls say. What's going to matter is what this committee says, to a small degree what they'll say tonight, but to a great degree what they'll say on Selection Sunday. And I don't know where Indiana will be at that point because they still have some games to play, but they're going to be discussed without a doubt on that weekend, when the committee meets to select the teams. And I can't remember anything like this in that regard, for a team to go from absolute obscurity a year ago, irrelevance maybe is a better word, to now being a team that will undoubtedly be discussed, and that honestly in 2 weekends is going to go on the road to play Ohio State in a game where they'll certainly be the underdog, but where they will have a chance to win.
Absolutely. And it's still shocking. And I've been watching it all year long, and I thought it was coming, but I didn't know this all was coming. I didn't see the tsunami. I hate to use that as a metaphor, but it is of sorts, because you see the water, but it doesn't really compute until it's there. And now they're 10-0. They're 7-0 in the Big Ten, the most Big Ten wins in program history, the most wins in program history. They've never reached double digits.
Right.
And so, yeah, yes, this would not have happened, not this fast, without the transfer portal. There's no question about that. I get it. Still, it doesn't matter to me. A football program that's in the Big Ten, and the culture, the people have responded. The environments have been electric, and it has been, I mean, what great scenes was that. I rewatched the game when I got home that night, and CBS, boy, did they work that drone overtime, buddy. They were just running that thing everywhere. But really cool scenes. But I'm like, wow, that's really Memorial Stadium. It's crazy, but what a boon it is for the school, the program, everything.
Yeah, I think it's magnificent. And we talked earlier in the year when there was the consternation about fans leaving early. And we talked about how, look, they're going to learn that if this continues, and they're going to embrace it. And we're not talking about that now. We're talking about the great environments that, when they're given the opportunity, they're creating to help their team, to make their team feel supported and appreciated. And I think that is a part of this, as well as, what's happening on the football field. The fact that Memorial Stadium was absolutely full on Saturday, and it was loud, and it was enthusiastic. And I think that that's a big part of this as well. it's not always the easiest component to get to, because in my time in Cincinnati, I'll tell you a story about when I went to Cincinnati. I had covered college football and college basketball both for, at that point, I think about 15 years. And so I had not had basically a weekend off from September 1 till April 8th in 15 years. And so I had a little bit of leverage. And so when I went to the interview with the Cincinnati Enquirer, I said, look, I don't want to cover college football. I mean, I don't want to be at games on the weekend, so I don't want to have to do that. And don't worry about that. We want you to cover college hoops. Don't worry. And then in my last year on the staff, they came to me and they said, look, we're sort of desperate here. We need you to cover the Cincinnati Bearcats. But here's the deal. You only have to go to the home games. That's how irrelevant University of Cincinnati football was in 1999. So we're talking about 25 years ago. No, they didn't even care if I went to the road games. I just had to go to one press conference a week, the coach's press conference on Monday, and then cover the home games. That's all. And then Brian Kelly comes to town 2006 or so, 2005, whatever year it was, 2004. He was following Mark D'Antonio. And he comes to town and they have a Big East media day in Rhode Island, and nobody from the Cincinnati media went. That's how, again, it still didn't matter. And he reamed the Cincinnati media for not being there. And I remember sitting on my couch watching the news and laughing at him. It's like, you'll learn, nobody cares. And then within like 2 years, something like 2 years, the Nippert Stadium is electric and full. They're playing Big East, the biggest games in the Big East Conference to go to, for first place in November and all that sort of stuff. And the place is just rocking. And it's a totally different thing. That's how quickly it can happen when you have somebody that has the right approach, and most importantly, make sure that the fans understand they're part of the process. So I think that little lecture thing that happened earlier in the year about leaving early was important. It was an important component of this, that you're part of this. If we're going to make this happen, you're part of this. And they have responded even more quickly than Cincinnati's fans to Brian Kelly's revolution. It's really cool to see. I don't know where it goes from here, but I know that in a couple of Saturdays, it's going to be the biggest game in college football. And I mean, come on, like you and I, if we had bet a year ago that the biggest game in college football on November 23rd would be involving the Indiana Hoosiers, we could be retired on the 24th. I mean, that no one would have expected that.
Yeah, I said it earlier in the show before you joined. I said when that game comes around, if I told you that the team that's undefeated in this game was going to be Indiana, I was like, yeah, that's not on my bingo. It was not on my bingo card, to be honest with you. And I've been high on this team all year long. And I see Linnell Carr's dad is listening. This defensive line has been unbelievably relentless. That's a huge part. They are a well-rounded team. Do not get me wrong. The defense has carried them at times, and Saturday was one of those times where they just stepped up and shut it down and did what they needed to do to win a game. And that's something that would not have happened before. They did everything that they had to do to win that game.
Yes, that's another component of this that's different than we've seen in the past. When you have seen these kinds of turnarounds or something similar, I've established, I don't think we've seen this kind of turnaround, but something approximating this kind of turnaround, it's usually been that somebody gets ahead on offense, a Hal Mummy type offense, a Mike Leach type offense that is next gen and that no one's ready for, whether it's passing or running or whatever, or the wishbone back in the day. Somebody comes up with something like that, and then the no one can keep up with it, And so they have success. And then eventually what usually happens is their defense falters, and that's why they end up losing. In this case, Indiana's defense was the reason they stayed undefeated. The offense was not up to its usual capabilities on Saturday, but the defense delivered, especially in the fourth quarter. They delivered what they needed to do to keep Michigan under control, to make sure that they weren't gashed on the ground, weren't beaten through the air, and that they can go into that Ohio State game with the dream scenario that you and I talked about probably 4 or 5 Tuesdays ago, that if they kept getting those one at a time wins, that this game could mean what it will mean now.
All right, perfect. When I was doing it's kind of funny. We were doing the football postgame show afterwards, and I was down on the field, and there was, a abnormally bigger group of people down there that normally is, especially they weren't media or whatever, and they formed a line down the goalpost, and someone finally pointed, and I'm in the middle of the show, and I looked back on the scoreboard, and it was a proposal. Hey, will you marry me? And it turns out it was Cignetti's daughter. So I saw the champagne. I saw Scott Dolson out there. I saw Pamela Whitten out there. And I'm like, well, it's somewhat of importance. I can tell you that right now. I just didn't know who. But, congratulations to Minette and Curt Cignetti. I'm sure they just had a new granddaughter. So how great are things in the Cignetti life right now? I mean,
yeah,
seriously, think about it. I mean, not that he wasn't having a success before, he was, but he has just taken it to another level, but it's a giant another level. Even though it's at Indiana, this is a giant another level, and because he's getting ready to sign another contract, I just have this feeling that is again going to take it to another level that I promise you, he's going to at some point going to turn around, look at his wife and go, because it was just not that long ago, he's at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And now he's fighting for a shot in the Big Ten championship. It's crazy.
And, if you think about it, Curt might want to press pause right now. Becoming a grandfather or having another grandchild, I'm not sure how many he's got. His daughter gets engaged and he's undefeated. You might not want to, you might want to hold on to this day for a little while. It's a pretty good time to be Curt Cignetti, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us. Cannot wait to come back. We've got plenty more to get to, and look forward to it. Thanks for being with us from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're back with more right after these messages.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indiehomepros.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. And Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us, as always. Mike, college basketball underway as well. The latest college or AP poll out, and Kansas still sitting at the top with good reason. They won I watched the game between them and North Carolina last week. Man, that was a good old-fashioned college basketball game. Those teams are both good. Hubert Davis has done a tremendous job getting North Carolina back to kind of being a North Carolina, because you go into the Fog and
Allen Fieldhouse,
compete like they did, and they did. They were there. They had a chance to win that game. So hey, when you play that close, that's a tie at worst to me. So I know it doesn't count that way on the book, but it's college basketball is going to be fun. But when I watched that, and I'm like, man, and I've seen Indiana play a couple of times, and I'm just wondering what this is going to be like, because it's kind of different styles of sorts. But Indiana is definitely loaded with talent, but they've won their 2 games with ease. Slow start coming out again in the first half of their last outing, but then a total dominating effort in the second half, in which they just shut the paint down. They owned the paint. They started hitting some shots. Mackenzie Mbako is stepped up to be the guy. Right now, he is really looking like a guy that's not going to be in an Indiana uniform next year. And that's, I mean, you kind of want that, because you have to have those guys. I know that people would love to hang on to them for 4 years. It doesn't work that way anymore. I keep saying, go back and look at the last, I've only done 6 years worth, but there were like 4 NBA draft teams on the roster of every national champion for at least the last 6 years. They may not have been on, all getting drafted in the same year, but they were on that roster. Look, UConn, they have been pumping out guys, but because they have great talent, and you have to have that level of talent to win at this high level. And now Indiana certainly does. They've got a lot of different pieces. They beat Tennessee. You can't compare games, but man, I did not expect the beat down Tennessee put on Louisville, because Louisville had looked kind of electric. And this battle for Atlantis that's coming up is going to be fun.
Oh, absolutely. Indiana fans may be the only ones who still think you can win a national championship without an NBA first-round pick, Jim. And the reason for that is that they were the last ones to do it. Now, okay, so when was the last time Indiana won a national championship? 1987. That's how long it has been. So what are we talking now? Quick math, like 38 years? It'll be 38 years by the time we get to the end of this year's Final Four. 37 at this point. So that's how long it has been since we had a national champion that did not have at least one NBA first-round pick in its rotation, and it's usually more than one. Not always, but usually more than one. I remember
it has
when
been for the last couple of years, for certain. It has been more
30.
than one.
Yeah, I mean it's almost every year. And I remember when in 16, people wondered about Villanova when they won it the first time. Did they just break the mold at that point? Because their players were mostly younger. Their seniors clearly were not first-round picks at that point. But then all of a sudden, the following year, Josh Hart gets picked in the first round, and then a year or so after that, you got Mikal Bridges gets picked. And then it was clear they didn't break the mold. They were actually really talented. It was just hard to see at that point. But that you have to have those guys. And so when people worry about a guy like Mbako going pro, no, what you don't want is you don't want Cam Christie or Max Christie or one of those guys that shouldn't go pro. You don't want that ever. The guys who come in and they show a little spark, but they aren't ready yet. And they haven't done it at your level. And they clearly aren't ready for the next level, and they go anyway. You don't want that in your program. That sets you back. But the guys who come in and do what McKenzie is doing now, and if he continues it on for another 30 games or so, that's exactly what you want. Because those guys are difference makers in your regular season, and they're especially difference makers in the tournament. Why does it matter? And why don't those guys? Why don't the teams that don't have those guys ever win it all? And it's simple. Jim, when you get down to the NCAA tournament, especially those last 3 or 4 games, you are so well scouted because the coaches that you're going against are very good and they have time, and they put everything else aside. Life, recruiting, everything goes aside. And they go through every inch of your film, every minute, every nanosecond of your film, and they know every call you have. And by the time you get out there, what's going to matter is at some point during the game, they're going to take away every option you have, except the option of I'm better than you. The McKenzie Mbako option of I'm going to make this play on my own. Or the Miles Rice, I'm going to get to the lane and I'm too quick for you to stop me. And I'm going to get to the lane and I may not score it myself, but I'm going to get it on the rim and Malik Renew is going to follow. Or I'm going to kick it outside and Trey Galloway is going to bust a 3, whatever it might be. But those are the plays that win national championship games. And those are the plays that are made by NBA talents.
Yeah, and it seems like more often than not, one of those top talents almost has to be a guard. The guy that is either running your offense or is scoring a lot on your offense from out there and hitting 3-point shots and whatnot. So, but a lot of, and talk about some great games. Kansas back at it as they host Michigan State. Well, that's probably on a neutral site.
That's the Champions Classic tonight. Michigan State versus Kansas, followed by Duke versus Kentucky, and that happens in Atlanta tonight.
Yeah. So again, those type of early season games, fun to watch. Of course, Michigan State probably going to get beat as they usually do in November. It's like an annual rite of passage. I'm just kind of kidding, but after watching Kansas the other night, they looked really, really good. Gonzaga looked really, really good. Indiana, if they can get past Louisville, they're going to probably most likely play Gonzaga in the Bahamas. And Gonzaga has a team of shooters. They've got some inside play. That's going to be an interesting matchup if that happens.
They're very good, but if you watch them Sunday, I can't remember. I watched it on tape yesterday while I was working out, so I don't remember what it was Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, whatever. But if you watch them on Sunday or Monday morning, if you chose to, against Arizona State, they were much more human than they had been in the Baylor opener. Arizona State played with them for 38 minutes, and I think they ended up losing by 8. But they were right there for 38 minutes. Graham Ike got into foul trouble. They didn't even put him back in the game. So it's nice to be deep enough to have a player like Ike and decide, wow, we can live without him. And I think Graham left the game with certainly in double-digit minutes with 12, 13, 14 minutes left after he committed his third. And I did not see him return to the game at that point. They just rode with their other bigs, and it worked out. And so there's an advantage there, but they were vulnerable in that game. And I think Indiana, they got to get there, but I don't think that just because they smoked Baylor that you right away say, well, how are we ever going to win that game? Now, Indiana, again, has to, much as their football team did successfully, Indiana just has to focus on continuing to get better, making sure they take care of business. And then, of course, obviously, you have to beat Louisville if you're going to get to a game in the semifinals of the Atlantis battle against Gonzaga.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Have you had a chance to watch Indiana yet? They've only played 2 games, of course.
Yeah, bits and pieces. I have not watched close to a full game because they've only played, they haven't played their high end teams yet. But I have watched because I wanted to see how they used Rice, how they used Galloway. I wanted to see what they were up to with those guys. I wanted to see McKenzie in the new and improved McKenzie. I thought he had an underrated year as a freshman, and that a lot of problems that are being, a lot of what happened last year is being overlooked because Xavier Johnson was hurt so much of the year. That team's an NCAA tournament team if Xavier Johnson plays 35 games healthy, or whatever the number was. And that's what really happened last year. Now, did they invest too much in Xavier in terms of what might be possible given the volatility that sometimes affected his college career and or the injuries? Yeah, they certainly did. They did not have a good backup plan a year ago for what to do without him. But that was the problem. And so I thought McKenzie had a pretty decent freshman year. I'm impressed by how he's played these first 2 games. I'm certainly now curious to see what he does against the high majors. How does he respond then? How does the whole front line, as it's constructed now, respond against the big-time teams? They're going to play plenty of them. The Big Ten's loaded with them. Big Ten may not have an elite team this year, but they've, as has been the case, people talk about great conferences. And to me, what still makes a great conference is that almost every night when you flip on the lights and a Big Ten team walks into your gym, you got to play. And that has not been the case in a lot of conferences. It certainly has been the case in recent editions of the Big 12, but it has not been the case in the ACC for years. Those Louisville teams that they field the last several years have been abysmal. Notre Dame had some really poor teams. Going back to 2018, Pitt had a team that did not win a regular season conference game. That's not been the way it is in the Big Ten. I think it's one of the things that bothers me now about sports conversation, Jim, is dumb stats. Dumb stats drive me crazy. And the absence of the Big Ten champion since 2000 to me is a dumb stat. Do you want to win one? Yeah, sure. That'd be great for whoever, but I don't think it changes the rest of the Big Ten. Like if I don't know, let's just pick a school. Let's say Indiana goes out and wins in San Antonio in April. Indiana fans are going to be crazy happy. 100, they're going to be super happy, and they're going to deserve it if that comes to fruition. But the people at Michigan State aren't going to be thumping their chest. They don't care. The people at Penn State or Maryland they're not going to say, "Oh, we finally won a national championship." No, that's not what a league is. That's not how it works. You're not rooting for your league to win now. You're rooting for your league to win their non-conference games because it means that your conference games are going to count more. They're going to help you in the NCAA selection and seeding process. So you want, when, even as an IU fan, when Alabama shows up at Mackey this Friday, you're going to want Purdue to win that game because it's going to help you. You play them twice. So if Purdue wins that game and then you go out and sweep them, that really matters for IU, theoretically. But at the end of the year, the league office wants the champion and the team that's there wants the champion, but it doesn't affect the rest of the league. What makes a great league is exactly what I said. You don't have those pushover games. You have significant teams every night. And that's not been the case in the Pac-12 in the past. We don't have a Pac-12 now. But it has been the case in the Big 12, and it has been the case in the Big 10, and that's what's made it great.
Absolutely. And the parity, in college football right now is a blast. That the teams that we're talking about, thank gosh that they added the 12-team playoff just in time for this. Can you imagine? Yes. Can you imagine just in the look in the Big 10 right now? There's 4 of the 5 AP teams are from the Big 10. Indiana's one of those, and they're all either undefeated or with 1 loss. Pretty crazy. But if there had not been a 12-team playoff, there would have been wailing and gnashing of teeth at the end of this season, because there would be so many good teams that were going to a bowl game and would have so many guys opt out and not play. And
right,
boy, I'm just thinking of all the great games we would not get that we're going to get to see because of this.
The reality, Jim, is, and I this is not a slight on Indiana fans, but this if they had gotten to this point, they'd still be sitting there thinking, oh gosh, we got to go to Columbus, and we're probably going to end up in the Peach Bowl. I mean, that's or whatever bowl, Citrus Bowl, whatever. I mean, they would have no reason to believe at this stage that they're likely to play for a national championship. But now they have every reason to believe that they're going to play for a national champion. They are effectively doing that starting next Saturday. Do they have to win that game? No, but it would help a lot. And if they did win that game, I think that they would be pretty close to clinching. There's a lot of tiebreak scenarios, but they'd be pretty close to clinching.
If they beat Ohio State, the only thing that could keep them out of the Big Ten championship game is Purdue. And the odds of that happening are not good this year. So it is a de facto semifinal game because of how it's Oregon has already beaten Ohio State. So Oregon, there's no one on their schedule that's going to beat them. Penn State has already lost to Ohio State.
Right.
So now Ohio State, if they beat Indiana, boom, they're in. It's the winner of this game is in. It's pretty simple. But Ryan Day did not go on Big Ten Network last year and say, I wanted to come here and get ready because we're going to be in this game next year. Curt Cignetti did. So I think the prophecy is just, for whatever reason, this thing is going to play out, and it's not, the craziness has not reached its full potential just yet. But it is going to continue to get there. Daggone, there was one other thing. Quickly have a couple of minutes. Adam Howard dismissed from the IU basketball team. We don't know what the reason was, but it's just an odd thing to happen at this time of year with that kind of position. We've seen this happen before here, and it's just it caused a lot of chatter on social media, and which of course it's going to, but there's not been any discussion about it really. And I mean, I haven't really talked about it because there's not a lot to talk about other than some speculation and things like that.
It is a curiosity, certainly, for that to happen. I've not been privileged to get any information about what happened. I've not seen anyone, and usually, there's a lot of really good reporters that cover Indiana specifically, or B, cover the sport nationally, that if it were pliable to get it out of there, if it were, that it'd probably be out right now. So it's been interesting that the circumstances of that separation remain as much a mystery as they are. So it is odd, and it's certainly disappointing when these things have to happen for whatever reason, or happen even if they didn't have to happen for whatever reason, whichever the circumstance may be. It certainly is disappointing, but I don't know that necessarily has to impact Indiana Hoosiers right now. It doesn't have to. They certainly can move forward if they're properly focused, and it does seem that's the nature of this team right now. It does seem like they're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with his content and all the content on the Sporting News, one of our nation's great publications. Mike DeCourcy, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jim.
Absolutely. More coming up as Chronic Hoosier will join us in the next segment once we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bite, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
And let me point to the president of the World Wrestling Federation. The Macho Man Randy Savage is not happy with your decision. Yeah, I am the cream in the World Wrestling Federation. And there is no doubt about it. Yeah, you mean Gene Okerlund. You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Woo, just playing around, having some fun today. I hope you guys are enjoying this Tuesday. Looking forward to hopefully chatting with Chronic Hoosier as expect him to jump on. Greg Smith, Rivals national recruiting analyst, also on the dais today as well. Looking forward to hearing from him as he has spoken to a lot of the Indiana prospects that the Hoosiers are recruiting. One of those, of course, Juju Lewis, who is making news as the reports are coming out that Colorado is close to flipping him, which I knew someone would manage to get that done. But Chronic Hoosier joins us now. Chronic, I was just mentioning the chatter about Juju Lewis and his potential of getting flipped at Colorado. No big deal, because I think that no matter what happens, Curt Cignetti is going to get another quarterback out of the portal, a veteran-type quarterback. I'm not sure if he knows he's with us yet or not, so we'll find out. We'll
I'll be here, man. What's up?
Oh, hey, brother. All right. How are you? Glad to have you. Thanks a lot, as always. Chronic Hoosier brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Get the best of new and used vehicles. And go online, AndyMooreHonda.com. Ask and visit my friend Bree. It's weird. Keep forgetting that she works at Andy Moore Honda. So congratulations. To reach out to Bree, she'll get you taken care of there on the reach out no matter where you are that way. But Chronic Hoosier, and I talk about whatever the heck I was talking about. I forget now. I've got so many things worked in there.
QB in the portal.
Yeah. I think that no matter what, Curt Cignetti is going to keep the heat on. Whatever quarterback it is, whether it is Taven Jackson moving up, there's going to be somebody for him to compete against for the starting job. Now that could be Tyler Cherry, that could be Alberto Mendoza, or whatever. But he is going to continue to, especially with the success he's seen this year with a veteran guiding this offense. It's looked surgical at times.
It has, and they made very clear from the onset their goal is to recruit production, not to have to rely on projection. They want to see you do it on tape at this level in order to have that trust that you're going to be able to do it here. And it's proven to be an extraordinarily effective strategy, if we're being honest. But I would not be surprised if he continues with that same tactic, because it's clearly proven to work, and it's clearly proven that the competition is good. And when you can get guys that embrace that rather than run from it, looking for greener pastures and an easier path to playing time, as we saw with Taven earlier this season, just because you're number 2 or number 3 on the depth chart doesn't mean that's where you're going to finish. So you got to love it when the guys embrace that challenge coming in, whether it be as a true freshman recruit, or a guy coming out of the portal, or it could be, a guy finishing up just looking for a one last championship run before he moves on to the next level, whatever that may be. I would fully expect that to continue. And, I expect it at all positions, none more so importantly, though, than the QB spot for IU, because you've seen just how critical that's been with Curtis Rourke's success and development here, and how that translates to the team's overall success.
Absolutely, and it has been a fun ride for certain, and yet more coming up, as Indiana will be playing in the de facto semifinals for the Big Ten Championship as they travel to Columbus to take on Ohio State. They have been feasting on these wins with recruiting. It is building a solid foundation of base, and Curt Cignetti is going to mix that, but he is going to bring in transfers as well. He's going to bring in the best players that he can. Like Chronic mentioned, he has talked about production over potential all year long, and you see why. Because it produces production. Even when they're not at the top of their game, they are such a well-rounded team. The defense won that game last week, not to slight the offense, but they did everything needed for Indiana to secure that win by only scoring 20 points, and Indiana holding the defense, holding them down, especially late in the game. That's a game, Chronic, that Indiana would have lost 9 times out of 10 in the past. And that was been so brutalizing to IU fans throughout the years. But now they didn't lose that game. They won that game. They're still undefeated. They're going to Ohio State with a shot to play in the Big Ten Championship. All words that would have thought been crazy.
Unless you listen to Curt Cignetti last winter when he stood on the floor at Assembly Hall and told you this is what he's going to do. He's been saying it ever since he got here. And I understand a lot of the skepticism, but no, he's a man of his word. You got to give him credit for it. But, I'm really, really curious to see if last weekend was just an anomaly, an off day, kind of a clunker. Everybody's bound to have them. Ask Alabama about that. But the thing that that kind of stands out about that game versus the rest of the schedule we've seen. Indiana has clearly been a better football team in every game that they've played this year. This was one of the first games where I felt like you saw a pretty marked difference in the athletic ability. When you're playing against the Michigans, the Ohio States, no different than the Alabamas and the Georgias of the college football world. Even when they're not having their best season, even when things aren't clicking as far as the team chemistry goes, you're still manning up at every spot across the board with generally the best athletes at that position in the nation. That's just what you get at the Michigans, at the Ohio States, the Penn States for that matter. And it proved to be a challenge for these guys. And, credit to the defense for keeping it together. And, giving the offense a chance to win the game for them. But that was one of those where you see it so far off the chart this season as far as production that it kind of gives me a little bit of pause heading into Ohio State. I think this team is going to give them the toughest game they've played so far this season. I'd like to remind everybody, Curt Cignetti's only lost one game as a head coach coming off a bye week. So
7-1.
He's going to have them dialed in. That for sure. This is probably going to be the biggest game plan of the season because it is the biggest game of the season. We've said that week after week after week.
This is actually the biggest game in IU football history, I would argue, Chronic.
I don't think that's hyperbole, quite frankly. You're already dealing with a historic season on so many different regards, but a chance to actually compete in the Big Ten championship game. That's what's at stake here. This is likely going to put them on a path to a potential bye in the playoff if they can seal the win. And it may be the biggest win in IU football history if they can go into the horseshoe and steal one from the Bucks. But I'm really curious to see how they measure up because once again, you're going to be going up not just against the best athletes, but this time with the team that's clearly clicking and firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge, but I'm fascinated to see the game plan they draw up. It's going to give them a great chance to get everybody rested and healthy and really keyed in the film room. And, the stakes absolutely could not be higher for this program right now. And, this is a team that has proven up to the challenge at every test so far. So fully expect this to be one of the most epic games in Indiana history. And get your tickets now. We've been watching them. Bunch of guys I work with are talking about traveling over, and it was a heck of a bargain about a week ago. But after that Michigan game, prices have shot up about 30%. So it'd be awesome to see a bunch of Hoosiers over in Columbus. And man, just imagine go Hoosiers late in the fourth quarter being chanted throughout an emptying stadium in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, they'll bring 100,000 of their closest friends with them to the game. So Indiana's going to need every bit. But, we've seen teams. Nebraska went in there and gave Ohio State all they wanted. So this team has been pretty good at blocking out the noise, and I think that's going to continue to be the case. I'm sure they're going to prepare for that as they prepare for this game going forward, whether that means pumping noise into the practice facility or down on the Memorial Stadium floor where it keeps the sound in, which I would be doing everything possible because it's going to be extraordinarily loud. Their fans are going to do everything they can to disrupt this Indiana offense. And Curt Cignetti is just going to be getting a little more healthier over these next 2 weeks as well.
Yeah, and this is one of those, you look at the run production against Michigan, and it was way, 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 way lower than anything we've seen so far. And again, is this fatigue setting in on the team? Is just what happens when you have to match up against some of the biggest, strongest, most aggressive defensive fronts you faced? I don't know, but it's going to be. I think that was a clearly a missing cog in the machine last week. Keeping the offensive attack balanced. So, RBs take quite a pounding throughout the course of the season. And when you get to this point, it's hard to fathom how many, traumatic equivalents to a car accident they've gone through week after week after week. So great chance to get the running back room healthy, get the offensive line as healthy as you can, and go out there and take your best shot at the Buckeyes, because there are fortunes that Indiana fans have never imagined that lie on the other side of that game, if they can go in there and pull the upset. First time this year, Hoosiers are going to be an underdog. So love to see how Cignetti's staff embraces that role and really leans into it, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Indiana. We say that now, it could be the routine here going forward. But it's a world I can't wait to go explore.
Yeah, it has been crazy. The environment out at Memorial Stadium and surrounding and the athletics complex was crazy. The church lots across the road, across the bypass, were beyond full when I got there, and I got there early. I'm like, holy cow. So yeah, there were more people there that could even get into the game, although they ended up having 53,082, which is about 400 over capacity. So great to see that. They'll get one more home game against Purdue on Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm wondering what that game is going to be like for the Boilers. We'll get to that because that's still 3 weeks away. But man, can you imagine what it would be like if Indiana was fortunate enough to be playing that last game against the bucket game to go undefeated in a regular season? That would just put a big old fat cherry on top.
Yeah, and I do think the bucket is going, the attendance, the crowd. This is going to be one of the only years that I can remember. You'd have to go back quite a bit since they've moved this to the end of the season, that you can expect a fully packed house, regardless of the outcome in Columbus here in 2 weeks. This is going to be the last chance for Indiana fans, perhaps, unless they end up hosting a CFP game, to see the Hoosiers at least at home during the regular season. And just a remarkable testament to what they've been able to accomplish, because typically this time of the year, you're seeing diminishing attendance with week after week as the weather turns south and the record starts piling up more losses. Just what a remarkable opportunity to be playing consequential late November football with a trophy on the line, and college football playoff implications squarely in their sights. So, hopefully that is the route I was expecting against Michigan, but I look forward to seeing just how much pain and humiliation Cignetti can fit in that bucket here on his first crack at the Boilers.
Absolutely. Chronic Hoosier, as always, it is a pleasure, sir.
Appreciate you having me, man. Have a great week.
Absolutely. You as well. Chronic Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got lots more coming up. Greg Smith, the national recruiting analyst for Rivals, will join us, and we will talk about Indiana's recruiting prospects as this season has gone extraordinarily well. Will the recruiting reflect that? Of course, I think that it will. We'll see. We'll be back with more right after this. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along for the ride. As Greg Smith will join us in the next segment, we'll talk some recruiting for Indiana football, as there have been a plethora of recruits in. Each week is a long list of these games. The Michigan game, no different. And what a night for them to be there and to see all of that, to see that stadium rocking the way it was. That's something that I cannot overemphasize, that even when Indiana was bringing in recruits before, that the stadium was, kind of quiet because it was pretty empty. So it just, to see the towels and all of that all night long through the fourth quarter, that stuff leaves a mark on these recruits. Not that the play doesn't, of course it does. The coaching does. That stuff is the most important. But this is, this just kind of helps seal the deal on things. People, they want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of the story. They see Indiana on College Game Day and Fox's Big Noon Kickoff, where they'll be again this week, which some people are not happy about that. As a matter of fact, I know Joe Klatt, I don't know if I still have that piece or not, but Joe Klatt had spoken on it. I guess I lost where I had that, but not that it matters. It is what it is. And, this is about money too. I mean, whoever, like Fox, they're not going to give that game up to another network that has an agreement. I don't know exactly how it all works, but I know that at the end of the day, Fox pretty much controls everything. There are agreements already in place as far as who's going to get to do how many games and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know if there's any flex arrangements between these two or between all of these outlets. You've got CBS as well as NBC, as well as the Big Ten Network and Fox, in addition to the streaming services of some of those that carry these games. So how it gets determined, I'm sure Fox had the first right of refusal. And why would they not go there? It's the biggest game in college football. Some people thought College Game Day would go there, and I'm like, they've been to Indiana already, which has nothing to do with that, but Indiana's in the game, and I believe, have they not been to Columbus already this year? So they'll just find a place to go, someplace different to go to, which it doesn't really matter being an away game. But as a matter of fact, maybe the less attention in that regard is better because it is a road game. But I've heard a lot of people talk about going to the game, which that's something you don't normally hear. People traveling. I'll be curious to see when this shakes out where Indiana falls, which
it looks pretty daggone good that Indiana will be playing in the college football playoff. So it all will come down to, will they be traveling or not? And that will be determined by whether or not they can manage to stay in the top. It should be the top 8, but you might as well say the top 7, because the Big 12 kind of knocks that out. You've got the SEC, the Big 10, the ACC, and I guess the Big 12, in addition to whoever the is there a 5th conference, or is it the group of 12? I forget what conference now. Who would fill that role? The Mountain West, or it's just a conference champion overall. That's what it is, outside of the top 4. So whether it's the Mountain West, Boise State, for example. But yeah, they threw that's another thing. That was a game Utah had BYU beat. That changes things for Indiana right there, unless BYU still, a conference champion, let's say BYU wins the Big 12, but they were ranked 25th. They would still get the 12th spot in the college football playoffs, which I'm not a fan of that. But it would be incredible to see Indiana host a college football playoff game. And for that to happen, there's no question, I think, that they have to at least play in the Big Ten championship game. That's the champions are going to get byes, and I will have to assume most of those runner-ups in those games are going to get that next layer. And it'll be interesting because the Big Ten, well, I think that if Ohio State and Oregon play again, Ohio State wins, especially on a neutral field in Indianapolis. But it could be Indiana and Oregon. And wouldn't that be something for Indiana to play the Big Ten championship game? Well, I could stop right there, of course, but it would be in Indianapolis. I mean, you want to talk about the completion to Hoosiers, the football version. Holy smokes. It is all being laid out there, and I hate to go on, but why not? It's just, it is so incredible to see. It is so awesome to see. I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm happy for the Indiana fans that have been season ticket holders for years and years, that have always gone to the games, because there are not that many of them, as a lot of people will like to claim to be. A lot of bandwagoners, which that's fine. Hey, there's all kinds of room. Everybody, I'm sure Indiana wants everybody to jump on board without question. But yeah, I'm really happy for those fans that have went through. This was worse than being a Cubs fan for all those years. Worse than being a Red Sox fan for all those years. Because not only did they lose and not win the big games, they were just losing overall. And so I've said this once before: be easy, Indiana fans. Take it like a winner. Act like you've been there before. Enjoy it. Talk some smack, but don't go overboard. Do not go overboard, and where you end up eating a lot of crow. Enjoy the fact that you are there. This team is in the conversation. They are one of the best teams in the country. They are one of the best coached teams in the country. That is a fact that is hands down. So that's something that there is no dispute to. And Indiana is going to continue to roll onto that. Now, part of what Indiana gets done this week too is some recruiting. They've got a bye week, but man, they are putting together a game plan to win the Ohio State game. As mentioned earlier, Curt Cignetti
is 7-1 coming off of a bye week. The last time this season was I forgot what I was saying. I got distracted. Someone just sent me a text message. Daggone it. Anyway, I hate when I get distracted like that. That's what happens when you're ADHD. But it's just been unfathomable to watch this culture change now in Bloomington. The amount of RVs that were still here on Sunday morning was astonishing to me, because I had to go out to the facility again for a basketball game. Well, there were still a bunch of the RVs still there from tailgating. So, wow, Indiana becoming a real player in the Big Ten. That is fun to see. And oh man, this Big Ten is going to be unbelievable because other teams are going to be good that aren't having the great year this year. Michigan State are going to be back. Washington's going to be, they've got a good coach. You know, they're going to come back around. UCLA on the rise, man. Michigan's not going to be down forever. It's going to be a churn. USC, they're not going to stay down forever. It's going to be a churn. It's good to get your shot at it because it's going to be tough year in, year out. But I think Indiana is going to be in the fight year in, year out. And that is what we're looking forward to. Let's see. And looking forward to Greg Smith joining us here on the program today. I was trying to read what that text was, but that was information that we had already heard. So I'd like to hear from Curt Cignetti, as we had the opportunity to speak with him earlier in the week and listen to what he had to say about last week's game and how it turned out. He was not happy with he was happy with the win, of course, but was not at all happy with how his team performed. But that's what a coach's job is, to not be happy with that. He shouldn't have been. Otherwise, you allow that complacency to slip in. But here's get this stopped here. And then here's what Curt Cignetti had to say, his take on last week's game.
Gutty win. Defense bend, don't break in the second half. Wouldn't let him in the end zone. Punt return was a huge play there. And then we stop them and we get the first down that we need. And so it's a good win. Not many style points there. Not going to be many people banging the drum saying Indiana ought to be rated higher in the BCS and all that good stuff. But, you know, the Indiana Hoosiers are 10-0 and have a week off. And so does Coach Cignetti's got a day off tomorrow. So I thought we had a chance to distance ourselves in the first half, and we really just didn't take full advantage of our opportunities in the red area. You know, we had a offensive PI call and a couple other things happened, some close calls. I thought one time they fumbled. Great stand by the defense on the 2, and it looked like we're getting ready to fall in. I thought their quarterback grabbed our guy. But, you know, we still had a multiple score lead at halftime, but we come out the first play, second half, throw an interception, but defense held them. And, you know, for a while there, we had a hard time gaining 3 yards on offense. A lot of sacks. We weren't getting anything done, but defense would bend and not break. And then we found a way to get it done. So it tells you a lot about the resiliency of this team, its competitive character. At the end of the day, they all count as one, whether it's 72-6 or 3-2. They count as one. And you know what? We're going to take the win over the Michigan Wolverines, and the Indiana Hoosiers will enjoy being undefeated for 24 hours.
Curt,
Yeah, I thought he was going to say the staff gets to enjoy it for 12 because I know he said that once. Yeah, I hope he enjoyed his day off that he allowed himself after that win, because we know that they are working extraordinarily hard
to get back in and make this season continue to go the way it has gone. Also, speaking to the media after that game, Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke, here's what he had to say.
When you see, the fans that excited, you guys, first 10-win team in school history, what are your thoughts?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, the atmosphere today, the fan base, just how the talent's kind of surrounded our team and just encouraged it. It's awesome to go out here and play and win games to this community. We know they have our backs, and we're just going to try to continue to keep it going.
How important was this for you guys just to have like a real challenge? It goes down to last possession, you need a punt return, need some plays on offense.
Yeah, you obviously don't want games to go down to last possession, but they're going to come up. And so, our defense played exceptional throughout the whole game. It really came up with a good stop at the end, and then we were able to get that first down. So, just those situations that we practiced for and knew were going to come up eventually. We just had to execute, and we did.
And you talk about playing spectacular is right. The defense did do exactly that, and getting the stops they needed when they needed them, holding Michigan to 94 first half yards, which that kind of got flipped in the second half. Indiana couldn't get anything going, but that's okay. The defense did an unbelievable job, and it is amazing the way that they're getting this done without having these big high star athletes. And that has to open eyes for the top level of the 3-star guys, but also of these higher rated players and talent. And Indiana will be bringing in higher rated talent. I know people like to go off, oh no, this is not how it's going to be. They're going to continue to get better talent. They'll still be having to play the same way, because if you don't play the Cignetti way, you don't play. But the talent level is going to increase. There's no question about that. And boy, that's something else that positive that Indiana fans should consider, is that it's going to get better in that regard. And how fun is that going to be for Indiana football fans? But also speaking afterwards, wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr.
Time you have a one-on-one battle anywhere on the field, it seems like you're winning that battle. Why is that?
Just a lot of work that I put in the off season, working on releases and then stacking the players. And also work with Curtis. So we build a relationship where he's able to trust me enough to win them one-on-ones.
And it's not just Omar Cooper, man. Either Elijah Surratt had a couple drops in the last game, very unusual for him. But other than that, they have done just a tremendous job this entire season on the offensive side. Everyone has I don't want to call it a clunker, but offensively, it was kind of a clunker, no doubt. But we're going to take a quick break and a pause for the cause from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios and get ready for Greg Smith from Rivals.com to join us, and we'll talk more about Indiana football and recruiting and exactly how it is going, how it is resonating with these prospects that are being recruited by the bigger programs, whether it's Colorado or USC or whomever it is. How is Indiana faring with these guys? What is the word on the street? We're going to find out that and lots more when we come back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Glad to have you along and glad to have Greg Smith from Rivals.com. He is the national recruiting analyst for football. And Greg, it has been a busy season for you, a busy season for the recruiters, for the players, for everybody, and it's been a blast. This college football season has just been so much fun. Well, obviously, if you cover a team that is doing really well, especially when they usually suck, it's even much better. So, but yeah, Indiana having some great fortune this year on the football field, obviously at 10-0, and the fact that goes with that is the recruiting in. And they have been bringing in a long list of guys in some of these bigger games that we've seen. And you get to speak with these guys. Rivals is on top of all of that from a national standpoint. As a matter of fact, make sure you're giving Greg a follow to keep up with all things recruiting, as well as Adam Gorney as well. And just go to the Hoosier.com to keep up with the latest. But some of these guys you've spoken with. Now, I guess, first of all, I guess we might as well talk about the elephant in the room, Juju Lewis, Indiana, involved in that. But it sure seems and feels kind of like that there's some distance growing between them and him. Who knows if that's true or not. Colorado seems to be picking up steam in that recruitment.
Yeah, I do think that there's distance growing between Juju and Indiana. I think that visit that he made out to Colorado a couple of weeks ago really is what started to turn the tide in this recruitment. And so, yeah, I do think that Colorado has the momentum right now. I still wonder, and for him in his position as a quarterback, USC to me is still kind of the best of both worlds situation for that, even though who knows what's going on with that staff, as it seems like Lincoln Riley has some sort of new blunder every week. And so it's just always something going on with them, even though, of course, their offenses are great. Look on NFL Sundays and you see a handful of his quarterback starting. You know the Heisman Trophy track record. But it does seem like Colorado has the momentum in that one. But that does not mean that there isn't plenty of good things happening with Indiana football recruiting on the heels of kind of this historic season they've got going on.
Yeah, and right now they have, I think, 19 commits. And I don't know that that Curt Cignetti really wants to go a lot higher than that, probably like maybe 23, I would imagine. So the window is growing a little narrow because he is going to use the portal, as everyone is going to. But he talks about production over potential. So he wants to have a mix of these guys and leave himself some room to go find talent, whether that's at quarterback to have someone to challenge Taven Jackson for the starting position next year, because Curtis Rourke has done an incredible job as a transfer in from Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's kind of where things start. And that's usually where it starts for teams that don't have kind of an entrenched starter going into next year, as Indiana does not, is that they'll be looking for quarterback. And the interesting thing about where Indiana is right now to me is that it's not just the recruits, the traditional recruits that the buzz is there with. It's harder to pin it down because, of course, no guys that are thinking about entering the portal are going to come right out on the record and say, oh, yeah, I'm looking at what Indiana has got going on. But we know that that's going to happen, right? We know the track record of what happened when they brought all those players in from James Madison along with Coach Cignetti. If you don't think that they're going to be an attractive destination for transfer guys this offseason, you're kidding yourself. I think that they're going to be one of the top destinations for the portal, which is why it's so important that they manage their high school number very well, right? I think that you could even see they could decide to shrink that number a little bit and not go up to that 23 you were talking about. They could look to kind of call out some of the guys that they already have and take other guys, because other guys are now talking about flipping to them. Like, they're in a really unique situation, which is a good situation to be in, but it is a little tricky because you still have to be right about each and every one of those decisions.
And not only that, you don't want to get that reputation as being a school that just kind of slides people out and whatnot. But there is a nature to the game now, and there's a business side, and the players are cashing in on that more as much than anybody. So there really can't be any complaints from the players' side because they are an equal participant in that now with NIL.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that most people recognize that. And I think that that's why you're seeing some of the guys, Tristan Abram being one of them, that, kind of flirted with some other schools through the season early on. And then as Indiana has continued to win, as he's continued to go back there and feel the love, he's kind of shut things down, right? Like, he was tweeting out, photos of him watching Indiana win games and, talk about beating teams that he had been considering and all of that. And so there's situations like that where I think that that's not on accident, that some of those guys have kind of shut things down and said, no, I'm all locked in on Indiana, because they realize on the other side that Indiana could just as well say, hey, we're having a historic season, and now there's other guys that we couldn't get before that now want to come in. They could do that too. But I think one of the other key points on this from Indiana's spot is it's not just that they get to get kind of higher rated recruits necessarily. It's that they get to be a little bit more selective on exactly what they're looking for. And I think that that's the sweet spot for a staff like this that is known for identifying talent and developing it. If they can get even more selective with what they're picking, because they've proven to be able to pick the groceries, so to speak, well, then that can be a really good thing for the future of the program.
We've all seen what Curt Cignetti and his staff can do with the talent that they currently have, which has been tremendous. So where is Indiana going to get better? They're one of they have never had a 5-star recruit, Greg, in the history of the star system, but that will eventually change. Not that matters all that much, but they are going to grow. But even the numbers that we look at now, these are all 2 and 3-star guys that are set up for the incoming class.
Yeah, I think that the next step is to have, those solid 4 stars to be really interested in your program. But it's an interesting thing because I've seen this happen. As you guys have been on the show several times, you guys know I live in Omaha, Nebraska, right? And so I've seen this several times where Nebraska has been notoriously bad at picking the wrong 4 stars, right? Like, they're very good at that, but it's a bad thing. But while there's other schools, like Iowa is a pretty good example of this, is when Iowa gets a 4-star, a high 3-star kid, they seem to really hit, right? Because they know exactly what they're looking for. And I think Indiana will likely be closer to that mold, that Iowa mold, where you're getting those high 3 stars, those solid 4 stars that fit the mold of your program, right? They're the right type of kids. They're the right type of players that fit what you're looking for. And then you can just continue to stack your roster. It's not a roster that you're necessarily going to bring in those guys that are going to contribute from the high school ranks right away, but you can develop those guys kind of behind the scenes. And then you can supplement through the portal to then bridge that gap before those guys are ready. And if you've got that formula going, I do think that that's a way to go. And I think that that's where this program is going. And I think it'll be just fine doing it.
And there are some guys that I think that very possibly they flip. One of the Tyrone Burris, who is a commitment to Louisville from Indianapolis, and I think that Louisville just got in on him first for one. But I would not be surprised to see a possible flip there. We'll find out. Byron Baldwin, who decommitted from Indiana. I've never, once somebody decommits, I'm like, yeah, they're gone. Those teams never get those guys back. But he was in the house for that Nebraska beatdown, and so I don't know. Colorado was also in on him, so I'm not sure what he'll end up doing. But they kind of need to win one or two of these, I think, just to show that, hey, it's having an impact. Not that they had that luxury this year, but it's the eye test kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a perception thing, right? I think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking perception is sometimes reality, and I think that when you can either go and flip a guy, especially a guy in state, Tyrone Burris is a really key one, I think, because you want to start to make sure that those guys inside of the state know that Indiana is a real place that you can go play your college football. You do not have to leave this state, and there's a lot of good talent in Indiana. I think that one of the things that I've actually been, and surprise is maybe too strong, but it's definitely caught my attention is doing this job for the last year or so, is that Indiana has much more talent than I think people give it credit for inside of the state and the high school ranks. And so landing him would be good. And I do think there's a real chance of that. I talked to him yesterday. He kind of played it coy. He's like, yeah, Indiana they're in the mix. There's a chance that they could flip me come signing day. But I think he really liked what he found when he was there on campus. He loved the environment. He likes that coaching staff and the way that the team plays. And I think that those are things that a lot of recruits are seeing right now. It's not just the flip targets, it's the guys already in there, the guys they're recruiting in the future. I think that they're laying a lot of good groundwork right now with those guys too.
Yeah, and I don't know how important it really is. I hate to say this, but at certain positions like quarterback, because we look at what Curtis Rourke, unless you can get that guy in his second year or something, you're not going to pass up on a guy that has 3 years of experience and has done well and is in the portal. You're probably not going to pass up on him unless you've really got the guy going on. So there's always going to be somebody there and available.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing that if you, and this is why embracing the portal is, I think, the way to go for these college coaches. I think Gorney wrote something yesterday, Gorney on our site about, Lane Kiffin embracing the portal and how Ole Miss, you look at those defensive players that they've got, and you see all of them making impacts. I think that all 4 of their defensive linemen will get drafted. All of them came from the portal. And I think that he didn't like the portal at first, right? And I think a lot of these coaches that were resistant to the portal or were kind of half in, I think are now going to see that going the way that Ole Miss did, doing what, Curt Cignetti did at Indiana, if you pick the right guys, it can really help impact your program. Now, you also have to have what I think Indiana does very well, and it's so hard to measure, is having a culture and an identity within your program so that when guys come into it, they know exactly what they're getting into. I think that helps guys acclimate as well. And I think Indiana does well in that. And as long as they continue that and they can continue to pluck guys out of the portal and get guys that they want, I think that they'll be just fine with that. And I do think your point about quarterback is correct. I think that you could, and we're seeing this because I hear it from high school quarterbacks and high school coaches. High school quarterback recruiting is dropping off unless it's that real top group. Teams are very much okay with just waiting into the portal and seeing if they can get a guy that's already been in college for a couple of years, and it works across the board.
Absolutely, and you're going to do whatever makes your team or gives you the best chance of winning and being successful. So as we go forward, tonight is the second iteration of the college football playoff poll. We saw Indiana take a more of a jump than I expected in the AP poll. The AP had kind of been not very high on Indiana, and I don't know if they were as high on Indiana this time, but they dropped Miami and Georgia like they were bad habits, baby. I mean, Miami just fell off into the ocean. No pun intended, with when they dropped from like 4th to 12th or something.
Something like that.
It was nuts. I was surprised. Although the ACC is very weak, they'll have their chance to play in because whoever wins the ACC is going to be there. And I think that's a one-bid league, as is the Big 12. But 4 Big 10 teams right now in the top 5 of the AP poll. I don't expect that tonight. I don't think that Indiana passes Tennessee in the CFP poll. I think that they'll remain at number 7, move up 1 spot, but the biggest thing is, Greg, and it's in 2 weeks yet, but when Indiana plays Ohio State, that is a de facto semifinal Big 10 championship game, is exactly what it is. And the winner of that game collects $200 and goes straight to Indianapolis. So that would be, and that's a great possibility. It's a tough assignment, no question, but I have no doubts that Indiana can do this. They are as good as these other teams. Penn State, when people talk about Indiana's schedule, I look at Penn State's and I'm like, what have they done? What's their best win? 33-30 over USC in overtime? But we can always play that game. But it just comes down to it. You win, you're in. And if you don't, they're going to, and it's the only way Indiana will have a chance at hosting a college football playoff game. If they lose that game, I think they're still in the CFP, but they're going to be one of those the travel teams.
Yeah. Wow. Think about that, though. I like, it's funny because I root for the best storylines, to be honest. And so I'm rooting for a situation where Indiana gets to host a college football playoff game. Can you imagine what that atmosphere would be like in Bloomington for the first year of Coach Cignetti, Coach Curt Cignetti, to be able to go in there and host a college football playoff game in year 1 would be tremendous. I do agree with you 100%. I think that the game against Ohio State, it's a de facto college football semifinal game. But it basically, I think the winner of that game, I believe, is in. And so it kind of allows you to control your own destiny, right? And then the winner of it obviously will get a shot at Oregon, because I don't think that something crazy would have to happen for it to not be Oregon as the one of the 2 teams in the Big 10 championship. If something really crazy has to happen for Penn State to be able to wiggle their way in, just the way that the things are broken down. And so I do think the winner of this game, you either get a rematch with Ohio State and Oregon, or you get Indiana versus Oregon in Indianapolis for the Big 10 championship. But yeah, I think that it's important, because I think that home field advantage in the first round of, especially this very first year of these home playoff games, is going to be really, really important. You are going to want to play that game at home versus having to travel on the road, especially if, say, you're Indiana and you get, say, like Tennessee to come to the cold, or you get, one of these other Southern teams to kind of come up in the cold and figure this out. Like, I think that would be a real nice advantage.
I had a vision, Greg, and it was Indiana hosting Alabama. Alabama's coaching staff, their head coach, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, strength coach, all former assistant coaches on the Indiana staff together 5 years ago. Mind-boggling that could happen. So that's the kind of craziness that we're talking about.
I brought you over to my line of thinking with the storylines. That's what I'm talking about. We just need the best storylines going, and that would be a great one.
I'm telling you. Greg Smith, make sure you give him a follow, keeping up with all things recruiting. He is the national recruiting analyst for Rivals.com. You can find him there or at thehoosier.com. Thank you, my friend. We look forward to doing it again soon, because it's that time of year.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Greg Smith joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and as always, great to have him. Great to have Mike DeCourcy on the program today, and Chronic Hoosier as well. Most importantly, great to have each and every one of you. See, any last-minute comments want to hit up? It's kind of hard to jump back into that conversation, but Appreciate everybody jumping on. And if you have not subscribed yet to our YouTube channel, do so, because you can find the Indiana football postgame show there last week. And Curt Cignetti is hot and very, very wanted. That's going to take care of it for us today. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. You know, the man Rick Bozich will be with us, Kyle Nenrip, and Dylan Sin. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.